Today's guest is Kingsley Lincoln, who is an indie pop artist. She's unlike any person that I've ever interviewed, combining her love of music with a unique entrepreneur lens. And she has cultivated and curated the most authentic and innovating collaboration in beauty, music, and in business. So, Kingsley, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm really, really wonderful. I'm excited for this chat.
I'm excited to have you here. And I was telling you off air, it's actually you're the first artist that I've had on this. It's usually, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, etc., which I know you are one as well. Uh, but first artist. So I guess it's good to be
For
number
sure.
one. So why don't you take this time and just contextualize a little bit, like who are you, how you got to doing what you're doing? Floor is yours for that.
Yeah, she, her pronouns. I am from Chicago and I am an indie pop artist who has really learned and understood the way that you need to present in the business mindset to grow as an artist, just in the digital space without a label or anything. And I'm a super bubbly guru kind of a person. I love spiritual talks. I really have learned to embrace that in my on stage performance and have really like cultivated this eclectic group of fans that are just all for growing, changing, learning, and being their most authentic self. So yeah.
Beautiful. And it's not every day, I guess, like you hear an artist that just kind of combines all of these personal development aspects, to her art. So I think that that's actually super cool. And then you're also involved in some businesses as well. So you want to tell us about that as well?
Yeah, I have two businesses. My lipstick collection is one business in itself where, yes, the lipsticks do pair with my album, but there's products that don't. So, like, I'm at markets, I have an online set up business and sell anywhere in the world now. It used to just be in the US, but we are any and everywhere. And then I own a social media strategy company where I have 10 employees underneath me. And we work solely through one company where they contract us to do social media from anyone that is like a personal chef to a big CEO. I've worked with all types of clients from 50 to 100 in a year. And yeah, that takes up a lot of my brain space as well. So my days are in thirds. I start in the morning as an artist, and then in the afternoon as the Kingsley business, and then in the evening for my social media clients. So it's an all day affair.
That's a pretty busy day-to-day experience. So kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you. Today I'm feeling it. Most days I don't.
Okay, fair enough. Well, in that case, you can use this time to focus back on yourself. And I'd love to know then, what brings you here today.
Yeah, I was so enthralled with coaching in a podcast sense because it's such a great space for communication to happen that other people could strike conversations to have. And I think a lot of times we don't get to see this side. Jay Shetty actually did this with a therapist and his, and I was like, this is wonderful. This is beautiful. So, yeah, today I'm here to open up my mind, open up my heart, and learn more about myself.
Beautiful. So in that case, I usually use the business as the vehicle to really explore the self, and oftentimes taking this stance where it's our inner blocks, our inner head trash, our inner emotional blocks that at some point will seep into the business, right? Like especially as leaders, as the ones creating the business, we are at the end of the day the bottleneck to it. So what's happening right now with you or in the business that feels relevant to bring into this container?
Yeah, oof. I think the bottleneck, let's start with since I spend so much time on other clients, I have created this perfect lens of what I want to be in my digital space. So I don't post anymore because I've spent so much time curating it here. It has not come, and it's really a creative bottleneck that I've made for myself. In on Instagram, I hardly post, hardly anymore, because I don't have a project coming out, so it doesn't really make sense to post. If that makes sense.
Okay. And why is that a problem?
you should constantly be growing your audience so that when something like waiting for your to have a product to grow your audience is the opposite. And I tell that to my clients. So not growing and not connecting with people every day prior to whatever I have is really going to hurt a launch. And even vice versa, when the launch is out, it's only going to be so many people because I didn't take time nurturing beforehand.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously you do this for a living, you know, all the business implications of, you know, the pros and cons of what it is that you're doing. In short, you know what you should be doing, but you're not. So why do you think that is? Well, what do you think is the gap between I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it?
I guess I don't know what I want to say in between my projects. I don't have a story or narrative to share. So I always feel like if you don't have anything incredible to say, just don't say anything.
And what if you have something half incredible to say? Is that
I
worth
mean,
saying?
yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. If it's half incredible, maybe not. Maybe take your time and think about it.
Okay. And how's that working for you?
Yeah, I'm not doing anything, so it's not doing anything great. It's yeah, so I think the thing is like I don't have, or I guess I have things to say. I just don't know exactly what I should say. Not that there's a right or wrong.
Okay. And if a client was having the same issue, what would you tell them?
Share about your day because there's something incredible in your day.
Okay. So now if you apply that to yourself, what comes
Ooh,
up?
child. That was so much stuff. I mean, even starting a series, just like a day told by Kingsley, where it's one piece of content. It could be something live, it could be a reel, but just reflecting back on my day.
Okay. So tactically seems very sound, right? Like right up your alley.
Yeah.
So what do you think is stopping you from executing on something that simple?
Not setting out time to do it. So saying I'm gonna do something, but not. I live and die by my calendar. So if it's not actually put in my calendar, it's just an idea. It's not
Right.
around to it. So actually blocking out 30 minutes a day where I can spend time on my digital pages.
And you carved out time to do this, right? And showed up to this and it was in the calendar and you made it happen. So again, right, you have evidence that you can do the thing that you say you can do. You know the strategies to do it, yet there's also a part that doesn't really want to execute on that. So is this really a scheduling thing or is it something deeper than that?
I feel like it is a scheduling. It's that I don't want to do it at this point because I feel like it's not going to be good enough. And I think the like perfectionism that I've gotten to myself when it comes to putting things out because I know what good quality product looks like. It's so hard for me to be like, I'm just gonna go live really quick and feel like, oh, that was worthy for social media.
Right. So going back to how you started this whole conversation is like, unless it's incredible, it's not worth it.
So I could block it out, but I feel like I want it to be um, deeper. I don't want to just put something that out. I want it to resonate in a way.
Okay. And how would you define incredible?
Mm. Something that leaves people
Okay.
whether thinking, what is she doing? Or, wow, this was really amazing.
So if you made a reel right now where you just had a thinking face and were, you know, kind of like, I'm thinking, and you don't say anything, and you just post that, would that leave people thinking?
Mm. Ironically, maybe. Be like, what is she doing online right now?
Maybe, but it's not incredible.
Not to me, it's not incredible. Like, would I look at that and would I be like, or would I just be like, ugh, and scroll?
Right. So going back again, what's the definition of incredible to you?
Mm. well thought out that leaves me wanting more.
Okay. And what would that look like day to day, post to post?
I think maybe get people getting to see what my most authentic self looks like day to day, post to post, something that's a part of me that they wouldn't get to see. I feel like just posting that I'm thinking is, yes, I could do it, but maybe I'm thinking of like a series of like thoughts of the day where it's like these hard hitting questions that I ask myself that's online now and open for people to discuss. And sometimes it can relate back to my music and my projects. That way people know something is coming. But for the most part, this reason why I'm not posting is because my this chapter has been a self-discovery chapter that I don't feel like I need to post online because I'm still in the midst of digging through who the heck I'm going to be as a person. Um,
Right. So now, right, we have one part that needs to post. It can only post if something's incredible. And then the definition of incredible seems to change the more time I ask it. Right. And there's another part that's like, well, people really just need to like know me and can see me day to day and all the random thoughts I have, essentially, authentically who I am day to day in between big announcements. Right. And then there's another part that's like, well, I can't possibly share self discovery, even though that's actually authentically the chapter of my life that I'm doing. So they're all at odds with each other.
mm,
They're all trying to find their balance and their peace amongst each other, the result of which is just
apathy.
stagnation and inaction. Right.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay.
Well
So
described.
what's coming up for you when I share that?
Um, Embarrassment one because I do this for a living, so it's hilarious to hear what I would tell my clients. Um, it makes me feel seen in all aspects of being able to separate what the main feelings I'm feeling. Um, they are big excuses to why, but they feel very valid in my feelings.
Right. So I would actually invite you to consider they're not actually excuses, they're reasons.
Mm,
Right. Like you're right. There is a lot of validity in exactly what you need to do. Your answers are very well articulated. Yet there's a big part of you broken up into a whole bunch of different subparts that's like, you know what? It doesn't feel secure to actually go out and do this. So what do you think this part is protecting you from?
oh gosh, fear of 300 views when I know I can get 500 views, 5,000. You know what I mean? Like fear of putting something out and it only reaching so many people. Um, time is money. So if I'm quote unquote wasting my time in my head, why do something when I could put it somewhere else?
Mm-hmm. And what does it mean about you if you get 300 views as opposed to 5,000?
Oh, absolutely nothing, right? Because you've touched 300 hearts. If you touch three hearts, that's amazing. Um,
Right. Logically, that's true, but emotionally, it doesn't seem like that's that true.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Logically, I've gotten myself to be over the numbers game, but emotionally, I'm like, oh, that was so good. It deserved more.
Okay. So emotionally, what does it mean about you?
um, that my worth is still tied very much to what I put out in relations to how many people engage, interact, and see it.
Right. So my worth is tied to external validation. And to bring that further, if I get less than I feel like I should in terms of views or engagement, then I am worth less than if I get more.
Precisely, which is the social media game.
Right. And how does it feel to have that reflected back?
Um, Well, nothing that I didn't know. But interesting take. I feel very defensive of like, no, that's not me. Um, because in all other aspects, I have such patience with it because it's a part of it. Like each album, you gain more and more followers, and it feels so good because you really started from zero. And with social media, I feel totally the opposite. I feel like I deserve more always because I take my time and put really good content out. And I think because it takes so long with an album between years, no matter how many views you get or listens you get, it feels so good because you've taken X amount of years to create this piece. So, yeah, I don't know how I can separate from one, not the other.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, if this doesn't resonate, that's totally fine. This is just my observation from the outside looking in, right? The album is your arc to release a creative work, right? Like it is your process to evolve from one creative endeavor to the next. So there's an inherent satisfaction in the process of going through that releasing, right? And the betterment you get of you as an artist and the skill sets and all of the things,
Yeah,
right? So there's an inherent satisfaction in just that process alone that is separate from the validation of what other people think about your art.
yeah,
When
true.
you speak about your social media, it's not it's not about your art. It is specifically about you.
Right,
And who you are is directly tied to what people think about you.
you're right.
So what comes up for you then when I share that?
I think I've worked so hard to not to like be my most authentic self. Giving it to the world feels almost unauthentic to myself. You know, like I've spent so long learning who I am, liking what I'm liking, and not caring. Especially growing up in a white dominant space where I was picked on for. Now I like myself. So the idea to have to go and put it online for people to decide whether they like or don't like, I'm like absolutely not because I like myself now. You don't get to validate. And I guess that feels like a really big blocker.
Right. So then just to reflect that back, I have very real evidence as to why it's not safe to actually show myself in my fullest self because so much of my past, who I actually was, or even who I was perceived to be, ended up really creating some internal trauma, right? Like I was hated on for reasons, that are what they are. That's very real evidence as to like, okay, well, why I have this trauma around being unliked. And for so long, I took that on and thought, okay, well, I'm actually unlikable. Now I've gone through that and I actually accept myself. But that acceptance has stopped at like within my circle of myself and maybe my close knit people,
Yeah,
right? To now take that tenderness that I worked so long to actually like cultivate and nurture and to expose it to the wilderness and the wildness of social media, it feels like too big of a risk to take.
absolutely.
Okay, so what lands for you there?
Well, absolutely. I think that it makes me almost feel like I have to go through it again. And this is maybe the in between. When I have a project to post about, it's very simple, it's very natural, it's very easy. Here's the final product. Here you go. Here's the final product. Um, but in between, there is just me doing me. So why share my secret space?
Right. So again, when it's your art, you're one step removed. Like if people are judging it, they're actually judging my art and whatever. I can handle that as a creative. But in between, there's nothing else to judge but me. So really, we're getting back to that tender space of there's too much risk. Like if I go out there and now people are judging me, I risk going back in time and having to lose all the self-love work that I've actually done.
Yeah,
Yeah. The irony of that is it's actually still keeping you in a loop where you're dependent on the external for your own self-worth. It's better than it was, at the time of the bullying, but that cycle isn't fully complete yet. So what's coming up for you right now?
Um, I just have like a notion. I'm like, well, if I did post every day, where would the healing need to begin? Was my thought. Like, okay, I just say to hell with it. Let me just be myself online every day. Where would the healing need to be? Right? I can take a mean comment about my voice. That doesn't bug me. I have an opera degree. People don't like Beyonce. Who cares? Could I take a mean comment about my skin tone again? These are my notions, right?
Okay. So number one, I just want to acknowledge you for allowing yourself to go there, because like it's closer to the realness of the issue, right? Like if you stick to the surface level tactical stuff, which you clearly know, then like we're putting filters and unnecessary stuff around the real issue, which is just another protective mechanism. So the fact that you're allowing yourself to go there, um, I just want to acknowledge, number one. Number two, is that something that you're open to exploring right now, or is it just something that like I'm okay to like I get it and I'll look into it?
Yeah, we can explore right now. I don't mind.
Okay,
An
cool.
open book.
So just for my own context, what's your experience with regards to like diving into, your body for answers or things like that? Is that something you do as part of your practices, or is it mostly like journaling? Like, what's your experience with that?
I'm a crazy meditator. If I don't meditate in a day, I'm beefing with everyone. So I like to
Okay.
meditate. I like to reflect back, and ask myself hard questions. So that's why I was like, let me think about how I would feel if that feeling is irrational, right? The heart trying to protect, or if I feel it in my body, it's something for me to pay attention to, right? Because I get irrational fears all the time. I moved across the country, and you get the flags, and you're like, I don't care. But if it comes up and it almost feels like a cry, I'm like, I need to explore this because this is like deep rooted pain that's coming back up for me.
Beautiful. Okay. So then, are you okay if we dive into that piece right now? Okay, cool. So what I'll invite you to do then is to just close your eyes and, follow whatever is most familiar to you as far as your own process to tap into your body and ground yourself in your body. And as you do that, I want you to bring the intention into this space of the parts that are still remaining unhealed about showing up in your authenticity. And when you feel like you're there, just give me a verbal cue and we'll take it from there. Yeah, beautiful. So, what is present in your body right now?
I think if I feel a lot of fear, tingling fear, feel
Okay. And where do you feel the fear in your body?
scary in my throat, close to my
Okay. So, that throat area that feels a lot of that fear energy, does it want to express something, or does it just want to be seen by you?
I think it just feels like
Sorry, it feels like what?
very confused. Just
Okay.
I can see right now like two different pathways, right? one that's very dark, one that's very light. I just feel like I'm standing and just looking both ways. It's like, which one should I take? Which one should I take? Where you can clearly see which path you should take. And I feel like one just feels like reclusing and hiding. And one is like, go out there and just be yourself. And you've learned so much. You've done so much good work that you're equipped and ready. And I'm just like back and forth between the two.
It's a great observation. And given that you're at that crossroads, does it feel like one is pulling you more than the other right now? Or it's like, I have to decide which path I'm going to take?
It feels like I have to decide.
Okay. And are there any other parts that object to you making a decision?
It almost feels like when I go to step to the light, this tightens up.
Okay. And if you tune into that tension that essentially is pulling you from stepping into the light, if that part could talk, what might it say?
Are we sure? Are we ready?
Okay. So are you sure? Are you ready?
Are you? It feels like a very much like I'm laughing because I like looking at like if you look at this clear path and this person's telling you like, are you sure? Like, are you kidding me? Like, walk down the clear path. It's hilarious that you're being fearful if you can see the ending, like this beautiful rainbow, this pot of gold, and you're asking me if I'm sure.
Okay. So there's conflict there, right? One part knows that definitely there's more expression and goodness for you on the light path, but another part's very hesitant to actually take that path and stick to the hiding of the dark path.
Mm-hmm.
What would it need to do to step aside and let you step onto the light path?
Yeah, it really feels like taking off the backpack and putting it aside and walking lighter. It truly feels like it. This like heavy weight and walking.
Okay. So that's what it would look like to walk the light path. What would it need to allow you to do that?
I it's difficult.
Okay. And if there's no answer, there's no answer. That's fine. I invite you to just sit with it and ask it, and maybe ask it what it would need from you to trust you to walk that path.
I can just hear myself saying like, we need to know that it's gonna, which is I don't can't stop feeling.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear all that.
I can hear myself saying, we need to know that it's gonna be okay. So there's a demanding before I can do anything, and I'm not quite sure how to like to say that it's gonna be okay because I, in reality, I don't know.
Right. So this part needs certainty and safety to walk that path, but you know that you can't provide that certainty because it's an unknown path.
Mm-hmm. Though it doesn't feel unknown, I can see it clear as day. So that's where I'm confused.
Okay. So what is it uncertain about in that case?
Well, I guess I've seen what the digital space has done to a lot of my friends who are influencers, and I think it's trying to protect us
Okay.
so that though we can see the path with sunshine and rainbows that I'm looking at, if you look down on the ground, I think this thing in my throat is seeing rocks that you could trip on or something. right? That makes
Hmm. And if you were to trip on those, then what would happen?
physically, your knee hurts.
And what about
Physically,
emotionally?
I'm sad because my knee hurts. So I think the the idea of tripping, this like idea of not doing the numbers that I believe and know, the little rocks on the ground, right? The 300 view video. I think this thing knows what my mental state has become, that it is squeezing dear life not to go down that as a protection. And while I see the value in the protection, I also know that there's no growth without going down the path. It doesn't, I don't even, I can't, I don't even see myself looking that way. Like I'm literally looking this way toward it's clear as day.
Beautiful. So that constriction, what would it need to just let go and step aside?
Oof, trust.
Okay. From who and for what?
For myself, to not just talk about it but be about it. I'm a real big advocate on like loving yourself through and through. And this digital space is a trying time. So trusting that I won't astray from all of the work that I've done, and it won't bring me back to a person that I don't want
So that you're not going to lose your way
to be.
if you have that much light and brightness on you.
Yeah.
Okay. And this part that is scared of you losing your way, how old might that part be?
Oh, it feels like my childhood self.
Okay. Any year in particular or just your childhood self?
It feels like 9, 10, 11.
Okay. So that 9-year old, is she aware of how old you are right now? Okay. So if you showed yourself to her as the adult you right now, what would she say?
She would be so full of love and so, and just happy that I'm feel fearless.
Is she excited at the prospect that this is, even though she was in fear, this is who she grew into?
Yeah, I think she's just in awe, overwhelmed and in awe.
That's a beautiful space to be in. So I invite you to just acknowledge her and to acknowledge yourself for how far you have come and the things you have overcome to be recognized in your fearlessness. And as you do that, ask that 9-year old version of you if she feels like she could trust you now to navigate that light.
Yeah, she said she trusts me, she doesn't trust them.
Okay. Which is fair. It's actually very wise of a 9-year old. Does she trust you to be able to adapt and handle whatever situations are thrown your way?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I feel like she's hesitant to say yes, but she's like, do you really have a choice?
Okay. Well, I mean, reminder she always has a choice. What would she need to go and believe that 100% as opposed to with hesitancy.
Just like I did before with rules and parameters for how to embark on this journey and really having strong check-ins.
Beautiful. And when you set those and show those to her, does she feel more at ease to trust you to navigate the light?
Yeah, I can see a map in my hand as I'm looking forward towards the light that wasn't there before.
Beautiful. So it's like she's ready to go. Okay. Anything else that she needs from you in this moment?
No, right now she's just holding on to my leg as I'm looking straight up. It
Okay.
feels very calming, very safe. This isn't as strong, but I can still feel it, but it feels different, almost like excited in a way of not fear based, but like, oh, that's another journey kind of a feel.
Beautiful. And that roll of constriction around your neck, is that a roll that your 9-year old wants to keep? Okay. So what role does she want instead?
I had to pick for her, I would like her to be behind. I would like the dauntingness of trauma. I'd like it to be.
Sorry, I wasn't able to catch all of that.
If I were to pick not the 9-year old, I would want her behind me so that I could lead, not with the trauma of what my childhood was, but with a different step, you know, not as innocent because of all the things that I've come to, but just more of a trusting step if she's behind me.
Got it. And what does she want? What role does she want, if any?
She definitely wants to lead,
She wants to leave or
lead,
lead?
lead.
Okay. Are both of you okay with her leading?
I am not. My childhood self is very fearful. It almost feels like it would be shrugging instead of what I know it could be.
Okay. So is she like your childhood self? Is she afraid to lead, or she just doesn't want to lead to begin with? She
I
prefer that
think
you, as the adult, you would lead.
I think she prefers me.
Okay. So can you reassure that you're okay to take the lead? Beautiful. So now, knowing that the adult you is taking the lead, trusting that the adult you can handle whatever comes while shining brightly in the light, and knowing that the younger you doesn't really want that role of constriction around your voice, what does the young you want to do right now? Does she want to leave? Does she want to take on another role? What does she want?
I think she just wants to be by my side.
Okay. So can you allow her to be there? And in this moment, does she need anything else from you? Okay. So in that case, if you could then just thank her for coming up, showing herself so bravely, and thank yourself for taking the lead and nurturing her. Close it off in whatever feels most natural to you. And when you're ready, bring yourself back to the present. How are you doing? What's coming up for you now as you recenter?
Clarity. I love talking to my child. She's really dope. I think everything that I feel now, in all justification, it makes sense to go back and talk to her.
Yeah. And it seems like she might have a lot to say, a lot of wisdom to offer you as well. Beautiful. Well, I thank you for allowing yourself to show up in this way and to dive deep into really exploring something that has a lot of layers to it, has a lot of like realness to it, has a lot of consequence to it, and just for you and for other people listening. Um, and if you can then just close us off and just in your own words summarize your experience of going through this.
Same question that you often can ask yourself, but it's really nice when someone else is asking. And I think the fun thing of repeating questions to dive in is a really great practice because it often does change. And I really enjoy asking myself again the same question. And going, okay, what do I mean by that? To dive in deep. I think there's a lot of fear in the digital space that tons of other people feel, and I hope today can ease some of their stress. I've got some work to do on just continuing to let go, not care, and I've reached, so far in the real realm, which is amazing and awesome. But I do live in the digital realm, so there's more work to do.
Beautiful. Well, I thank you for showing up in the way that you did. And if you want to then just close us off and let everybody know where to find you, who's the best person to find you, the floor is yours for that.
Yeah, Kingsley, Yo Kingsley music on all of the platforms. But if you really want to get to know me, listen to my records. I have two albums. I'm working on my third record this year. On Spotify, it's just Kingsley on Spotify.
Beautiful. Well, Kingsley, thank you very much for coming on and for everybody else listening. We'll see you on the next one.